The 18th century was an era of near constant warring. Minor disputes or territorial claims could lead to wars involving many great powers, such as the War of Jenkins' Ear, a war that involved Spain and Great Britain over a simple trade squabble. And even during peacetime, certain conflicts would continue. These wars would never deeply affect civilian populations due to the professional armies that fought in them, but some would still have resounding international consequences. One war, described by some historians as World War Z, characterized a century. This war was the 7 Years' War. To understand the 7 Years' War, we must look at its predecessor, the War of the Austrian Succession. It involved most of the important powers in Europe regarding the contested succession of Maria Theresa to the land owned by the Habsburgs. The Pragmatic Sanction, a decree within the Holy Roman Empire that allowed a female heir to take the throne, was intended to let Theresa take the reins of her father, Charles VI. However, upon his death, Charles left Theresa with little money and hardly any troops. Frederick II, King of Prussia, seized upon this and gave the order to invade the Austrian province of Silesia in 1740. France, Bavaria, Spain, Sweden, and Saxony allied themselves with Prussia in the attempt to divide the territories owned by Austria. Great Britain mainly fought against France to prevent them from overrunning the Austrian Netherlands and to protect their own territory from the same thing that's happening in Austria. And in 1742, the British Army sent a force of 16,000 men to aid the Austrians. The Peace of Aix-la-Chapelle was signed in 1748. France agreed to leave the Austrian Netherlands alone and confer Maria Theresa as Austrian ruler. Prussia retained Silesia, and Spain renewed the Treaty of Utrecht with Britain so they could import slaves from Spanish colonies.
After the War of Austrian Succession, the British and Austrian governments failed to stay together. Maria Theresa tried to gain British support in reclaiming Silesia, but the British didn't want any part of it. In turn, Maria Theresa turned to the French and allied with them, leaving the British behind. The Brits were now in support of allying with Prussia, and eventually did so. The diplomatic revolution is a term used to describe this rapid switch in alliances. Great Britain joined forces with Prussia due to the Convention of Westminster, signed on January 16, 1756, which was signed due to the fact that the British feared French attacks. France, being allied with Austria and Russia, essentially reversed the alliances that comprised during the War of Austrian Succession.
On August 29, 1756, Prussia invaded Austrian Saxony due to Frederick's political suspicions. He pushed on to invade Bohemia and failed. This first attack eventually triggered the complicated series of alliances that were created during the diplomatic revolution, influencing France and Russia to join Austria and launch an offensive against Prussia. Prussian victories were very hard to achieve, and battles like the Battle of Kunersdorf and the Battle of Zorndorf against Russia were devastating to Prussia, with Prussia nearly losing 1 2/3 of its fighting force in each. Even though the war was especially devastating to Prussia, it was able to survive as a state due to a number of factors. Prussian military leadership from skilled commanders using effective tactics gave Prussia a strong advantage over certain battles. Frederick's main rival on the Russian throne dying, Tsarina Elizabeth, caused Russia to leave the war against Austria due to her successor, Peter III, being obsessed with Frederick. Financial assistance from Britain also helped throughout the war.
Meanwhile, the main conflict in North America was the French and Indian War, fought between France and Great Britain. Both sides were fighting over the Ohio River Valley, and both sides wanted to acquire the Ohio Territory because whoever had control of it would be the dominant power in America. Both France and Great Britain were allied with different Native American tribes. The British were primarily aided by the Iroquois tribe, and the French were primarily aided by the Huron tribe. William Pitt, an English military strategist, led the British to victory. Pitt sent 40,000 troops into Canada, the greatest number devoted to colonial warfare, as they destroyed the French. The French could not keep up with all the British, and so the British conquered most of the North American territory. Britain achieved victory after victory against the French economy as well as militarily capturing French goods and ousting them from the markets. In the Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive decisively defeated France's Indian allies. Britain had won the war in every theater. Great Britain received all of Canada, the Ohio River Valley, and the east of the Mississippi River Valley. King George III also issued the Proclamation Line of 1763, preventing settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains and upsetting settlers and British subjects who were granted land for fighting against France. Britain's presence in India via the British East India Company and their wide-reaching American territorial acquisitions cemented Britain's position as an imperialist regime, becoming a global force to be reckoned with. Britain's place in the world was primarily centralized within Britannia before the war, and their resounding victory actualized an empire where the sun never sets.